And that worked very perfectly. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea, presented by. Do we still have a sponsor? I'm not sure. Right? I'm not sure. I'm not. I'm just filling in here for the host position. So, little, little bumpy road here now and every now and then. But yeah, it's me, John. Everyone, we appreciate you guys joining here for Wednesday morning. Of course, Gordo, 1/3 of the regular Wednesday crew. How's it going, my friend?
Oh, pretty good. Thanks. I thought you were going to make a 2/3 joke or a 2/4 joke.
Right. and and filling in for Timuchin, who had apparently a lot to do this morning, is Gali. Gali, what's going on?
Trying to say that I don't have a lot to do this morning?
No, no,
What
no, no.
the
I'm not
hell?
saying that you. Well, I have not a lot to do this morning because I'm here. I'm here every morning, man. So that means on Wednesdays I got nothing to do.
Nah, it's a work from home day. I got two work events tonight. One starts at 5, and then I got to go to a second one. It's that holiday season where you got to go to all these things, and I started a new job, and so I really got to get the word out that I moved places. So I don't really want to do it, but it kind of worked out. I work from home, swing it through the day, and then I'll head out. I'll watch probably almost all the match, follow the last 20 minutes or so on my phone on drive in, and then I'll hit two different parties, and then I'll come home and deal with the dog and the whole day of work I didn't do.
Yeah, hopefully better. Yeah, hopefully coming into that event you're in a good mood, right? It means that the Reds are playing
I'm
well.
hoping so.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last 20 minutes, hopefully the game's wrapped up. You won't even really need to pay attention.
Right. Exactly. Hopefully.
That or they're gonna see something really special if we get like a last 20 minutes, like the last 20 minutes of the last time we played at St. James's
Yeah.
Park.
Right.
These people at this networking event might be like, why is that guy giving the DX symbol to each and every single person wearing a black and white outfit in this park?
Hopefully not, right? Like in terms of
That guy just kicked Santa.
hopefully the circumstances that went into the so-called special event that happened last time weren't too ideal, right? And we certainly wouldn't want to get into
100%.
yeah, 100%. But let's talk about some headlines, gentlemen, or rather the lack thereof. Although a big one, I wouldn't say big, it depends on perspective, kind of appeared this morning. Let me actually put it up on the screen here if I have it. There it is. Basically, a summary of what David Ornstein posted over on the socials. Basically, the three wise men, right, for those who celebrate Christmas, right, have basically gotten some sort of offer, particularly Virgil. Liverpool made a contract offer to Virgil van Dijk, albeit with no breakthrough as of yet. Following that, it's anticipated that Sal would probably be offered a new contract soon, and Trent. Third in line, surprisingly. Talk's still continuing. So, what do you make of these boys? I'll start with you, Gally. Obviously, no, it's still news, right? But it's basically much much ado about nothing, right? It's basically just a continuation of what we knew all along. Where okay, yeah, there's an update, but an update that nothing's really going on yet. So, what do you make of
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I just think that this is like handbags and hand grenades, to be honest. I think it's been that for months. Like, do you remember the last time we re-signed Mo? And by the last time we re-signed Mo, I mean when we all got ourselves worked up into a tizzy that he was never coming back and he took down all the Liverpool stuff off his social media sites.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had his agent fighting with Liverpool supporters, fighting with English reporters, online, on Twitter, on a Tuesday. And then Wednesday morning, we all woke up to Salah draping a jersey on vacation and ripping his abs out on the public, right? So it was like, the biggest news was, oh shit, the fucker shaved his head. And then we found out later that was 1 year in preparation of the greatest hair transplant of all time. But I just, I'm not saying it's not something to worry about, but I am saying it's December 4th, and this makes a little bit of sense. I think the news is coming out for a reason. I think the PSG news was planted by his agent to try to get Liverpool to talk. I think the Ruud Galetti reports that he would take a 1 year deal is to get the supporters even more on his side.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, a 2 year contract for Mo gets signed, and then a 3 year deal becomes easier to negotiate with Virgil. Right now, Virgil is operating on the idea that he might be the only one that comes back. And if that's the case, he wants Mo's money.
Yep.
But if Mo's here, then you defer to the big dog and you take the second level. I do think you were spot on. I'll let Gordo jump in a second. I do think you're spot on. I think the guy third on that list is way the bleep down on that list. And I'm not sure if the other two sign that they'll even make a contract offer that will tempt Trent to stay, to be totally honest, unless he gets that FOMO feeling of like, these guys are going to do this for 2 more years. I don't want to be Jude Bellingham watching us lift this trophy. I don't want to be Emre Can going to Juventus, Gini Wijnaldum going to PSG. I don't want to be that player that leaves a year or 2 before this thing kicks back in. So maybe that spurns him to sign. We'll see. I still think it goes Salah, Virgil, and it's a huge question mark on Trent.
Gordo.
Yeah, I'm totally in agreement with that as well, because I think too with Trent, the club has more to offer him than he does them, in my opinion. He's I think we saw, it was like, I always use that ex-girlfriend analogy. What, you're dating a girl for a long time in college. Her Instagram posts are starting to become a little more flirtatious, and you're wondering if she even wants to be here anymore. Right. And then once in a while, like against City with a couple of those passes that he did, you get one of those wonderful experiences in the bedroom that you used to get, and you're like, maybe this is what I've been missing. But I still don't know if he's like totally committed as well. So in that sense, when you've got these 3 caliber players, and you've got 2 that clearly still want to be here and 1 that you're not even so sure about, and it may be different in the back end. We don't know what the conversations are going with Trent, but I agree. I think like the club's like, you don't want to do this again, then you don't have to do this again. We can do something else, and we can move on because we can find another right back.
It's the only position that we have any form of replacement cover in of the 3. There isn't a center back for Virgil's role. There isn't a right wing in the world that's going to pick up from Mo Salah. I'm not calling Connor Bradley Trent, but between Bradley, Gomez, and other kids, you do have actual cover there.
Yep.
Timuchin is here, says, here we go, Gordo and girlfriend analogies. Hey, boys, just saying hi before heading out, missing out on the contract chat. Woohoo, contract chat, right? I mean, listen, it's still positive news, though, like in terms of like what we were getting or what we were not getting over the last few weeks, which is like no news at all. It's certainly a start. I guess the question is, and this is for the both of you, do you feel like we get it done now that kind of the dam is broken and there is like some concrete news here? Do you feel like we get it done before that period where these guys can actually start negotiating with new clubs? I mean, that would make the most sense, right? Where you don't want to even risk these guys, hearing out anything from any, because let's be real, these guys, even at their age, when you're talking about the Salah and Van Dijk situations, they're still probably the best in the world at their positions, and losing them, no matter how much you feel like they're going to decline over the next few years, it's still going to be a big loss. So I guess my question is, do you feel like, given that this is out, does this get done before January, before next year rolls along? And any one of you can start.
It has to, right? Because like you said, the second that, because they can walk for free, right? So the deals are a lot more lucrative from the other teams because they don't have to pay Liverpool anything. And so you do want to close that out before they get any sniff of any other kind of contract, because if you do that, then it's going to be hard pressed to compete with the likes of a PSG or Real Madrid for offering major contracts in which they don't have to provide any kind of payment to Liverpool with those negotiations. So yeah, I think it's essential.
Gally, any thoughts on the matter?
I think it is essential. I think Mo's contract, and I'm just going to say this now, I think Mo's contract is going to be done in the next week to 10 days. We'll get it. And then I think Virgil's contract comes out like right around Christmas. And I think this is almost strategic too. They know when they'll do it. They'll drop it at some period. I do think it'll happen before, to Gordo's point, before the first. I'm not so sure about Trent. Like I said, I think that one could go. I think Trent could be one that literally ends up playing out the second half of the season. And they almost dare him to be like, we dare you to sign a pre-contract with Real Madrid. You see what these supporters might do to you over the next 3 months. If you want to play 3 months on the string, you aren't some German Bond-looking villain like Emre Can, right? That could just walk out there with his flowing hair and be like, look at me, I glide. But he worked hard, so no one cared. You're not Gini Wijnaldum, a Dutch player who came and then kind of made his way with all the, the pomp and circumstance of his effort in industry. There's a difference. You're Trent Alexander-Arnold, a Scouser came through the academy.
Right.
You sign a pre-contract at Real Madrid in January in a year where we're challenging for all titles. You will quickly, to the point that Alan made, find a way to make Liverpool supporters actually bag on somebody other than, with three initials, other than FSG all day.
Right. And that's actually a good segue, Gordo. Let's bring up some hypotheticals here. And I hate to do this, but we're kind of short on topics this morning, right? let's say Trent goes to Real Madrid, right? Just no contract gets sorted. He signs a pre-contract, like Gally says. What would he be in your eyes now? Because there is this debate on social media where you got guys there saying like, "Oh, he probably treat him the same way we treated Sterling or Owen or some stuff like that." I mean, obviously these are select few. These are some select posts that garner a lot of interaction. But do you feel like that kind of hatred is warranted, considering how much he's given the club over his entire career? Basically.
I think like the fact that he is Scouse is
right.
it adds to kind of it gives another layer to the conversation. However, the difference with like Sterling and some of those other guys is that we hadn't won everything. Like Trent's won everything, right? He's done everything with the club, so he's given us stuff. Whereas like Sterling kind of left when we were on the up and up, and it looked like we were kind of transitioning into this force to be reckoned with, and it didn't make any sense why a young player wouldn't want to be a part of that. And I think that hurt a lot of people because we saw him as someone that we could, bounce off of for the next few years, and he obviously didn't feel that same way, so it kind of hurt a little bit more. I think there is something to be said for his attitude this season. I think if he comes out and he looks like he gives it all, and his work rate is unbelievable, and he's not making those kind of pouty situations with Slot in the beginning of the year when he was taken off, I think we were talking a little bit differently. Because if he comes out and gives us the year of his life and then goes, "Thank you for everything," like the club's going in a different direction,
kind of like what Salah's giving right now.
Exactly. Right? I think that would be a lot more respectable. I think that the conversation changes a little bit with how we are perceiving his demeanor.
You feeling more of the same, Gal? You feel like it's nonsense, or it's something that
Look, I think that there is. I have always said this. I am not in the business of telling people how to feel. Like, I don't tell people how to feel when it comes to relationships they're in. I try not to judge people for like their stance on certain topics. But ultimately, with Trent in this case, like if a person wants to look at it and have it diminish everything, if they want to think like he's Sterling or Fernando Torres, that's on them. I won't personally. Like, I'll look at all the memories and I'll be happy. I'll also say this. I think that there is a lot to how you do things, right? Bickler and I talked a little bit about that Leicester City party they threw, or, as I like to refer to it on YouTube, Steve Cooper's funeral. But they basically had a celebration of life while, the guy was still alive. It was like literally kicking dirt on a living person. I think that was handled incorrectly and unprofessionally. I think Trent can decide January 1st, I'm signing with Real Madrid. There's no reason he has to sign a contract until June 30th. Now, if Real Madrid puts that ultimatum, you need to sign this deal and we need to publicly announce it because we need to save face and we want to see your commitment and we don't want you to change your mind and do a Zubamendi at the last second. Okay, you make that decision, then you deal with the repercussions. The alternate option is you tell Madrid, I got the power. You want me. You need me. I'm the best right back in the world. I'll sign that contract. I'll talk to you sometime after May 22nd or the day after the Champions League final or FA Cup final or whatever our last competitive matches of the season. And to me, that's two juxtaposed situations that I think will garner different response from the supporters. And I really hope the latter is what happens if he decides to leave.
Matsush probably nails it perfectly here. It's going to be a split between supporters as the feelings are about FSG. Like, yeah, I mean, I there'll be a select few who blame Trent, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who are going to point at FSG and go like, oh, this is all your fault. You didn't give him what he wanted. And personally, like for the record, I'm on the camp that Trent has given us his all. He's been a great servant, club legend and all that. If he feels like it's another challenge, then by all means, kind of to what Galley's point is, he's well within his rights to do so. And listen, for the record, all these three guys I'd hope would still be part of the team coming next year, hopefully with that golden Premier League lion on the side of their jersey, right? So listen, we'll see. Contract talks are going to be going over the next few months, and I feel like I wouldn't want to, kind of touch on this too much because there's going to be a lot of shows here at American Scouts where we're going to be talking about the exact same thing over the next few weeks until this thing is resolved. Even when it is resolved, right? We're going to be talking about like, hey, so do you think this contract is actually worth it? So there's going to be a lot of talk regarding that. Yeah.
That's what never ends in these things. When you have contracts, there's always two sides to them because then you got to look at the contract 3 years in, right? Like I remember we were on air and me, Bickler, and Tamichian were like, it's so great they re-signed Mo because they don't have a replacement and they weren't ready for Mo to leave. But I really hope they find a way to get a fee in the second year because we had started to see a little bit of the wheels come off and the different things. We get to the third year. But now you're judging this contract, looking at it going, well, this was great. Like he did everything and he helped us bridge the gap and he's proven he's worth another deal, a bumper deal, and to add on to it. I think the similar thing with Virgil. Let's see how he responds from the injury, what it's like, what's his recovery come to, and can he lead this team? Because they're going to pay a premium because he's club captain. Like that comes, the leadership is part of that contract negotiation as well. So I think in every deal, in any sport, you judge it at the beginning. And at the end, you're really judging it based on the results of it. And 9 times out of 10, you usually overpay for these things, right? So that'll probably be the case here too. But it will be a mistake not to. I'll say that.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason that we haven't seen so much discussion on it too. Is like I said last week, like the club and Mo are coming at this from two different angles, right? The club is coming at it from this deal is going to last us 2 years. So we're going to make a deal that's going to suit us in 2 years because best case scenario and May of 2027 is when you start to decline. And that's the best case scenario. But somewhere in the middle of this 2 years, you're probably going to decline. So we're going to basically protect ourselves from that. Whereas Mo's coming, look at everything I've done for you. I deserve this contract. Whereas like Mo's looking at it for what he's done, the club's looking at it for the future, and sometimes that is a real contentious point.
Before we move on, though, I mean, obviously it would be American Scouts' tradition to kind of predict here, but let me throw a wrench into that. If you're going to keep one, and I think you both kind of, hinted as to who you would keep. I'll start with you, Gally. If you had to absolutely keep one, who would it be amongst the three?
Painful. I absolutely keep one.
Yeah.
I keep Virgil. I keep Virgil because I think you can. I keep Virgil for the plain fact that I think that you can more confidently, more rest assured, see Virgil playing at this level or a semblance of this level for a longer period of time. Though I think it would be easier to replace Virgil, as crazy as that sounds, because I think you could go out and try to buy yourself the best young center back in the world. We've seen this year that Konate is on the cusp of going from elite class, international class to world class when he gets a straight run of games and his confidence is there. So, and you still have Joe Gomez on a 4 more year deal. So you have some reinforcements. You have Kwanzaa in the position. So you buy 1 or 2 and you buy a big one. I'm not saying I want it, but I think Mo's more difficult to replace. But if you told me I could only guarantee to keep one, it's Virgil for his presence and his leadership, which proves me wrong, by the way, because I didn't want him to be captain.
Matish says Virgil as well. Gordo, more of the same, or you throw in a curveball there?
Well, I was totally on board, and then that last little bit that Kelly talked about is totally true because like the center back position too, like you can kind of get away with having like one elite center back playing like the sweeper role that what we've seen. If one's, it's essentially there's 2 players in one role. Now, obviously, they're playing differently because how the systems have changed over the years. Your right back and left back are doing 2 different things. We've seen Andy Robertson not going as deep and Trent going as deep. So who's ever on that right side is actually covering a little bit more space. So it's not exactly 2 people for one position. However, it probably is easier to find one decent center back while you develop Kwanzaa and continue to develop Konate than it is to find your striker, your elite winger like Mo. I've always also said that, like, when the contract talks were going on, when we were in the height with Mane and Firmino and Salah, I always thought that of the three, it would be easiest to lose Mo. And I've been proven time and time again that has always been the incorrect stance, because he always seems to up his game a little bit. And so I hesitate to ever bet against him, because I've been the one that's like, we can go without Mo. And then Mane starts to dip, and I'm like, I don't know, that would have been a bad call if we had chosen, if we let Mo walk and allowed Mane to stay. And then, Bobby obviously.
Poor Sir Z is in the fetal position under his desk right now, listening to this, being like, why are you talking about Mane staying? That's not fair. It's not fair.
It just speaks to how good Salah is, though. Like, that was a conversation 4 years ago, and Salah's probably still in that conversation right now. With some of his I'd say Bukayo Saka kind of is the Mane replacement now. So he kind of went to the next generation of a player that can match up to him in the winger position. He's that good. So I get what you were saying, but finish that thought for me, God. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No, that was you were gonna just let me ramble into a cul-de-sac anyway. So you protected me, and then you let me get hit by the bus at the end.
kind of how like our system protects our defense better. Sir Z says would keep Virgil van Dijk. He's a force multiplier. Yeah, I would say slightly Virgil as well. Although you both made some compelling arguments about Salah. A lot of just on cue here. Mane. How is Mane doing, by the way? Do you guys follow the Saudi League? How is he doing?
No, I don't follow the Saudi League, and neither do the people of Saudi Arabia.
I'm sure Sir Z would know. Sir Z, how's your boy Mane doing? How's Firmino doing? How are you? I have to get started on Firmino.
If you root for Firmino, if you root for Salah, you're basically rooting for Ronaldo, because in every time Salah passes the ball, it's basically Ronaldo scoring, Ronaldo doing something crazy. I will say, I saw that highlight reel goal that he scored the other day where basically Ronaldo is running full speed. The ball is played over the top of the defender. I'm not kidding. He cushions the ball down with his left foot. One of the best touches I've ever seen. He deliberately plays the ball into the ground so the ball bounces over the on-rushing keeper, runs around the keeper, and first time volleys it into the net. It's the second most impressive Ronaldo goal, other than that goal he scored in the Champions League for Juventus, where he literally jumped, and I think his head would have went above the basketball hoop backboard, and he hit it like the most powerful header from about 160 yards away and still found the top corner. Like, I hate Ronaldo, but I'll tell you this right now. I've come to grips with the fact that Messi's the better all-around footballer than Ronaldo. I would take an hour of Ronaldo highlights over an hour of Messi highlights all day, every day of the week, and twice on Sunday, as long as they cut all the shit out from when he played for Manchester United.
Probably the same. Yeah, probably the same here in terms.
The goal's ridiculous, guys.
Yeah, in
it's
terms of
stupid good.
Probably gonna have to
stupid good.
Yeah, probably gonna have to look at the highlights to.
I mean, you're gonna have to figure out how to get the Saudi games on a highlight on your phone.
Yeah, but you know how it is though. With the Ronaldo fan accounts, they're literally a dime a dozen, so they probably have that goal plastered all over their freaking socials, man. So
it's a great point.
Yeah. So, moving on here from contract talk. Like I mentioned, we're probably going to be talking about that over the next few weeks or so, depending on what happens or what doesn't happen. Setting the stage, December is obviously a really heavy month if you're looking at the Premier League fixtures and where they kind of group against, and probably our biggest test passed with the win over Manchester City. But there are still some potential pitfalls over here, starting with today's game against Newcastle. And I'll start with you, Gordo. Looking at this December schedule, obviously we got some Champions League and a League Cup game kind of shoehorned in there. What do you make of this, looking at that, including today's game? Could we expect kind of like an October-November romp? Basically, those last 2 months, we went without a loss, didn't we? Or even dropping any points at all. You still think that's a realistic expectation as the fixtures kind of pile on, less rest days, all that? Yes.
Since our loss to Nottingham Forest, I think we've only dropped 1 point, correct?
Two. We drew with Arsenal.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, that's a really impressive run. I think the difference here is that the banana peel is not so much the teams, but it's also the condensed schedule of all the games. I mean, you're playing, 3 games in 7 days in a couple of situations. So we've passed the toughest test in terms of opponents, and now I think the opponent is us. Right? We have to beat us because we've got enough. There's enough teams here that we should easily take 3 points off of anybody on our day, given what we've already seen this year. But the weather changes. You've got holidays. I mean, these players are human beings that sometimes we forget. We think it's like a FIFA game where we just we turn the game on and they're ready to go. They've got stuff going on. You get sick at this time of year. Our injuries starting to pile up, which means the players that were covering for them have also been playing a large run of games. Then you get players back and you try and integrate them back into the squad. And this is a very difficult time in terms, like I said, I think we are our biggest opponent in the December run in. It's on paper, turn on the FIFA game. This is easy 21 points here. So, but it's never that easy. And those other teams are also going to be looking at the calendar going, this could be the time that we can take some points off of Liverpool because XYZ, somebody's sick, somebody's injured, or they've just had a big game away from home. So I think it's going to be a challenging with the condensation of the schedule.
Yeah, I worry about our midfield legs as well, Gally. Do you share the same concerns with Gord? Or are you looking at this more of a pragmatic kind of thing, or do you feel positive considering our last 2 months?
I feel good. I think any Liverpool supporter waking up on December 4th, 11 points clear and perfect in the Champions League, winning 18 out of 20 matches after the best manager in 50 years at the club leaves, just shut your fucking mouth and get off social media if you're not happy today. Like that, or feeling good. That being said, I can piss anybody off.
I felt the tag.
I can ruin a moment, so I'll try. So my concerns, Newcastle today is not the easiest of fixtures. What bums me out is the 2 injuries to Konate and Bradley at the end of the Madrid match. Because what I felt so good about that match was we were seeing another really good performance by Konate. We were seeing a really great, a 9 out of 10 performance by Bradley, only giving him more confidence in the time that he's going to rotate with Trent during this busy period. And then you get Harvey back late in the match, and you're thinking to yourself, wait, now we got Harvey to add to that midfield. Jones and Szoboszlai are fighting each other tooth and nail every moment. Now, I need one of them to give Gravenberch a break at some point because it's just bothering me that he constantly starts, and not that I don't want him to. He's the player of the season so far. But he can't play 90 minutes every single game because we have watched that movie unfold, and it usually ends with a bad injury to a key component of our cog, of our system. So to me, I point out on this screen, I think Girona, Southampton are massive. And the reason for that is that our position in Europe and how we go about that League Cup quarterfinal, those are the matches where we have opportunities to really do some rotating. Like, I need to see Tyler Morton start that match against Southampton. I want to see Virgil on the bench and not on the field, for that match against Southampton. And I really think we should be going at the Champions League match against Girona like we're literally traveling to Spain and playing with house money. They're not playing well. They're not in good form. You want to talk about a team that's just overtaxed with the requirements of playing Champions League football. They can't do it. They don't have the squad because there are some banana peels. That Fulham team, I'm really happy that match is in Liverpool and not in London. They've been one of the quietly sneaky good teams this year. Leicester's Leicester, but they looked much different yesterday under Rude. They got the manager bounce that, I think United was hoping they'd get. So there's a couple banana peels. And listen, we all know this. A trip to Tottenham is never easy. That game has 2-2, 3-3 draw written all over it, even with the way we're playing. So if we get out of this stretch in the league, and drop no more than 4 to 5 points top. So I'm even giving them the chance to have a banana peel loss. I think they would take it right now to get to January 1st, knowing they're going to have, 2 draws filtered into that. You draw at Newcastle, you draw at Spurs. I think you'd sign off on that, especially with a trip to Goodison, a top side like Fulham or up-and-coming side like Fulham. You do get Leicester and West Ham around the holidays, which is nice, but, none of these fixtures are easy, and the league's proving to us anybody can show up. Like, eventually, I think someone shows up and takes a scalp off us the way they've taken some scalps off Arsenal and taken scalps off of City. I just hope our supporters remember the 18 out of 20 and don't just go chicken little, woe is me, because that's normally what we do.
I mean, that's a good thing Timuchin
Me
isn't here, right?
Me included.
Right, I'm kind of feeling that as well every time. I'm just like, this is too good. I'm just waiting for the slippage to happen somewhere. But I totally get what you mean. I should probably get off of freaking Twitter, man. It's not good for my health.
No, it's not.
Go to Blue Sky.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, go to Blue Sky. People laugh at it. I signed up for it not too long ago because that's where all the fantasy content went. They left Twitter. They were like, we're sick of getting bots and OnlyFans people asking us questions instead of asking questions about fantasy. And because fantasy really was one of the things but fantasy soccer really was one of the things that took off on Twitter because it created huge accounts and interaction. Because, I mean, it's 11 million people around the world playing the exact same game under the same rules. And they all went to Blue Sky. So I said, screw it, I'll set up an account. I had followers on Blue Sky that were following us on American Scouser on Twitter that were like, sending me private messages saying, I hadn't seen an American Scouser post in 6 months. I post 4 times a day on Twitter. The Blue Sky is supposed to be, and I mean, it's got 20 million compared to 600 million users, but it was designed to go back to non-controlled algorithms. So there's no corporate bias. It's really what you look at. And you can say, like, I don't want to see these posts anymore. And you get no politics, where you can't do that in Twitter. So it's a pretty cool environment. I genuinely like all those people that used to have the little tweets and the little birds and their handles. They've all switched to the stupid little butterfly. And I will say, if the Blue Sky people are listening, please change the fucking logo, because the blue butterfly is absolutely annoying. All right, off my Blue Sky rent. And while you're at it, go to the Blue Sky page and follow AmericanScouser.com.
Right. I would link it here. If you could link it, Yali, that would be great, because I do not have Blue Sky right now. For those who are looking for another alternative, right? Alternatives are always great. You don't want one thing dominating one aspect of life, right? So go to our Blue Sky page. Probably more pleasant.
Or we might be getting ripped apart on both social media.
Right. Who? Like,
well, I mean, yeah. I mean,
who are these dumb
on there? So
who are these dumb Americans talking about football, right? Like.
Just don't call it soccer. You'll be good.
Right. Matouche says here I did want to cut Gali off during his rant there. At 21 points, he said, take a 34-point lead at the new year. Clearly, City won't win another game. Now that is the positivity I can get behind. Sir Z says that everyone else has the same potential issues as us. Chelsea's are one Cole Palmer away from the season going to shit. Arsenal are in the same boat with Gabriel, Saliba, and Raya. And Jota is apparently out until late December. I did not know or see that, but I didn't
see that either. I thought he was supposed to be back in training, but maybe he had another issue or something that's caused him to have a problem.
His wife gave birth, his wife gave birth, didn't she? Like, I know his wife.
I did not know that.
Yeah, his wife had they had their kid. But in terms of like another physical injury, and this is a great actually topic here, and thank you, Sergi, for bringing that up. I'll start with you, Gordo. Jota, what are we thinking? Like, we've had seasons where he can't contribute. Like, we know how good a player he is. But this is the third consecutive, or fourth even, consecutive season where he's missed a big chunk of the year with an injury. And if I recall correctly, since he joined in 2020, 2021, there hasn't been a season where he's missed a big chunk because of an injury. So what are we thinking here in terms of the summer? Because as good as he is, it's not great if if we just chalk up him missing like 10, 15 games every season, because that's not great at all.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that if you've got a deep team and you don't need the positions, you can kind of get away with him, because when he comes back, he usually does perform. He'll get you 1 or 2 goals right off the bat. Like, he's one of those players that I feel like that's his first game back from injury, and he does something like score 1 and assist 1, and you're like, oh, we haven't missed a beat. And you can kind of get away with that if you've got the squad. Now, however, like last year, injuries start mounting up, and he's one of them. You look at that as going, man, this is a liability, and we've got to have somebody that at least can stay healthy for an entire year. So at the moment, and with everything, that's with all the discussions that we have about Liverpool, the sky is blue right now. No pun intended there. The sky is blue. It does, it's more of a luxury to talk about these things. If we get to the end of December and we've hit like a rough patch, these issues are going to start to be brought up. We're going to start to, it's going to start to turn to sandpaper, and we're going to start questioning whether or not we want them around.
I guess piggybacking off of Gordo's point, Gally, and I guess I'll be straightforward here. If an opportunity presents itself in the summer where a club offers a decent fee, and we've pretty much targeted a replacement, like the gentleman from Frankfurt, I forget his name, Masmouche, I think. Would you pull the trigger?
I mean, listen, if the right opportunity came, I'd sell everyone. I've been firm on that for years. Me and Bickler, wrong or not, were two of the first ones a few years ago when Trent went off the wobble, and people were like, if you got $100 million offered for him right now, would you take it? And both of us were like, I'd cut my arm off. I'd drive him to the airport and I'd give him a big pat on the back and say, thanks, brother. But at that time we needed the money, and you didn't know where it was going, and you needed to really probably refresh because, well, we thought Mo Salah was done, which is, what people make that mistake, right? Over and over. My bigger issue is with Jota is that it's the inconsistency and the type of injuries. And I think that's what makes me the most nervous. And I looked over here. It looks like 1 to 2 weeks, they're saying, from what I just saw. That was what Slot said in his press conference. To be honest, guys, I'm more concerned about Alisson getting hurt on October 4th and supposed to missing 4 weeks, potentially with it being extended to 6 so they could wrap around an international break, which I assume just meant we just don't want him to leave and go to Brazil. So we're not going to even have him in training, so they can't try to call him up. For the fact that he's still not back fully fit on December 4th, a full 10 weeks almost. Now, I'm sure Kelleher playing well as he has something to do with it. But, I mean, if we're going to get on Jota about injuries and the real questions, we have a replacement or two for Alisson. Should Alisson's sale not be the number one topic on the lips of supporters' mouths, and more importantly, those that crunch the numbers? Because I don't care if you're the number one keeper in the world. If the number 2 keeper in the world gets to show everyone why he should be a number 1 somewhere because you miss 15 to 40 games every 3-4 years, you just can't. You can't build around that. You can't work with that. So to me, the biggest unknown return date to me is Alisson, and they're still saying he's a couple weeks away.
It's really concerning as well for a goalie. Like, cause I played goalie. I wasn't really a good goalie, but that was the position I played when I got on the field. It's surprising, Gordo, how much injuries he gets, especially in that same part of the body, right? The hamstring. So do you think it's a conditioning issue or anything like that? Or it's just his body's just built a certain way where, it just gets, the same part just gets hurt every time, right?
Yeah, it is a little bit. And I will say, like, that's what ended my collegiate career. Was I tore my hamstring, and it was my junior year, and I really wanted to play my senior year, and I just didn't really say anything about it, and it made it much worse, which happens a lot with you can, and especially as goalie, because you don't have to run, so you're not using it as much. But I will say, when at one point in my senior year, I was really close to coming back. Like, I felt really good. I was running, I was sprinting, I was passing the ball, I was involved in training, and we were just dicking around before training one time, and I popped one, like basically a goal kick. We were playing like long passes, and and it did my hamstring in because of the exertion of like the dead ball and the kick. And that's, I think, what keeps happening to Allison, because how many times do we see it? It's after that, like a big kick out. That's when his hamstring goes. So I think it's just one that it's never going to go away. And honestly, I think the club has probably already made up their mind on Allison, which is why, at first it was the big four, our spine, and now you don't even see Allison being mentioned in these talks. It's just, whether the media has totally forgotten that he's a player on the team, I don't know. But like, I've seen less and less about Allison, as opposed to 5 to 10 weeks ago.
Well, to be fair, the cameras in the Champions League coverage pretty much focused on him when Keller made that penalty save.
Yeah.
Although I don't remember the cameras pointing at him 1 minute when we took on Man City. Gentlemen, let me ask you, because I figured out this morning, I was thinking up to myself, has there been a bigger week for us in terms of, like, obviously if we're not winning, obviously it's big if we win a trophy or something, but this last week where we beat Real Madrid midweek and then we beat Man City on the weekend, like, in terms of a string of results, has there been anything close to that in terms of magnitude and in terms of the profile of the opposition that we've faced? Because I'm struggling to think of one. Like, I don't want to glaze too much on our performance and then we drop points later today, right? But it just came across my mind this morning. I can't think of a certain situation where
that's a hard one. I'd have to look back. I'd have to, like, someone would need, where's Kazi when you need him? Like, where's the Encyclopedia Kaz? That could, like, spit out and be like, in 83 we played blah 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 blah, and Berkeley scored. Like, dude wasn't even born yet. But I can't think of one. You'd have to look up and tell me, like, did we play Chelsea the weekend before and Arsenal the weekend after the 4-0 comeback to Barca? Like, I don't know, because I don't know if I remember anything where it was like bang, bang, and we had these. I do believe there was a period like this where we had to play like a makeup game or some Premier League game that got moved during the 13-14 season. I feel like there were 2 other monster fixtures wrapped around the Manchester City 3-2 comeback win. I could be totally wrong there, and I could be mixing seasons. I'm talking the year where we went so close and then we had the slip. I just feel like I remember it was that day when Coutinho scores the curler against City where you're like, holy bleeping shit, we're going to win the fucking league. Like, all we got to do is get 8 points of this or 7 points out of the last 9, and then Jose Mourinho came and went Jose Mourinho on us. Yeah. And Diego Aspas.
I think was it 04? But with the year that we won the Champions League, I think it was that would have been 05 because it would have been a knockout round. But I'm pretty sure we had Chelsea in the semi, and then we had Chelsea at the weekend and we beat them twice. And it was part of the reason that the Mourinho versus Benitez thing started heating up, because it was the Luis Garcia ghost goal, and I think something else happened at the weekend where we ended up beating them as well. But yeah, I mean, how comfortable too?
Right, exactly. I was gonna say, how comfortable were those 2 wins as well? Like,
no, not conceding is a thing. Penalty saves, I mean, man, I've never been. Like I said last week, looking at that weekend at the beginning of the year, it would have been a very. I was assuming this would be the most difficult period of time, and it could be a time when you make or break your season. You lose both those games when you need points or you need those wins, or you need anything. You need a spark of hope. It could be a very demoralizing weekend or a week for the team, and it turned into completely opposite. Like I said, before in the pre-match of that Real Madrid game, I have never. Looking at this picture, even in 25 years, you could give me this picture and go, how did you feel on that Wednesday before kickoff for Real Madrid? I don't know if I'd ever have imagined how calm I would have felt before those 2 fixtures. And then to feel that way, and then to be justified on Sunday at noon Central Time, I don't know. It's just a great feeling. It is a really good feeling. It's hard to fathom.
Right.
I don't think it was that. We beat Newcastle 3-2 at Newcastle on May 4th. Then we had the rousing victory, obviously, over Barcelona 4-0 midweek. And then we beat Wolves at home the following weekend, 3 matches in basically 8 days. If that Wolves one was a little tougher task, maybe you could compare it because you were 4-0 down, 3-0 down on aggregate, and you scored no away goals. So basically, you had to win 4-0 or 5-1. So, and then you went on to win a Champions League. I'll say this: if we go on to win the Premier League title, there won't be a more important week than this week. And it may argue that it's the most important week that Arne Slot has in his entire career, because I believe it's when Liverpool supporters truly believe not only can they win the league, but that this is for real, it's sustainable. And that feeling you have when you watch this team and you think in the back of your mind, they might actually be better than they ever were under Klopp, is real.
Mm-hmm. We're also forgetting the 3-2 against Southampton the weekend before last as well. Like that was a banana skin game. Had it written over it when they got 2-1 up, and we managed to pull it away. Like, listen, imagine if we drop points there, right? None of this would probably be as great right now. Before we jinx things by being too positive here, we do have a game today, right? We do have a game today against Newcastle, and probably not going to get too much into it, but, to close out the show, obviously, tough game against Newcastle, St. James's Park. Who are you guys probably putting in as your first 11 there? And I'll start with you, Gally, in terms of lineup predictions. Obviously, we're going to talk about it in the pre-match and everything when the lineups are announced, but, predictions.
I think Kelleher starts in net. I think because you don't have Tsimikas fit and it looks like he's still out for a couple weeks, I think Robertson will be at left back. I think that you're going to start Kwanzaa, and this is the weird one, right? I think Kwanzaa starts at center back because he's a center back and it's the start of the match, and you put him there, and Gomez will go to the fullback. That's just my guess. That could be flip-flopped. In midfield, I'd be tempted to rotate a little bit, but I think the only one we'll see is Curtis Jones for Szoboszlai. I think McAllister and Gravenberch will be in this match for sure. And then up top, for me, it's Nunez. It's Gakpo, Nunez, Mo for this match specifically.
Gordo, what about you?
I'd agree. The only flop that I'd make is Curtis Jones. So I think they start Szoboszlai here. It's just, I don't know. Just Jones has been so hot and cold, but maybe that's because he hasn't been given a real consistent run. But I think he goes Szoboszlai. I think that's what he wants that to work because he keeps going back to it. Mm-hmm. It just Szoboszlai is like he hasn't really not been very good on the ball. I was really hoping that worldie went in so that against City early on, so that Danon could start sharing a different video of a goal in Discord. But it's he needs one. I think that would be my only change because I think it's going to be Gomez, Virgil, Robertson, Trent to the back, obviously Kelleher and Sticks. You can't take that away right now. And then I also would like to see a rotation in the midfield because this is probably one that you can drop points and be like, yeah, it was Newcastle away. But I do think that he sticks with McAllister and Gravenberch in the center, and then Szoboszlai, and then I don't think you change the front three. I would not put Diaz in this situation. I'd definitely go Gakpo.
Sir Z says that he doesn't see Trent being dropped. Gomez CB for sure. I see the Kwanzaa shot though, and I'm actually going with. Yeah, go ahead, Gail.
No, you go. Go with your lineup, and then I'll comment on Sir Z's.
Oh yeah. Pretty much Galley's lineup as well. I feel like we got to put our best foot forward here. Midfield still has to be McAllister and Gravenberch. I do worry about those legs a little bit. I felt like Szoboszlai ran himself out of the field against City, so it's definitely Curtis Jones there. And I do like Jones more on the ball. And if we are facing Newcastle without their star player, I don't know if Isak is fit enough to play. Right, but
it doesn't sound like Isak's playing, and there's also questions over Joe Linton playing.
Right.
And I just feel like in a lot of ways, you have to rotate these guys. I understand where Serzi's coming from, but Trent barely made the bench against Madrid. They didn't use him on purpose. He barely made the bench. He was only fit enough for the bench. You start him against City. He plays in a high-octane game. He had to come out because he was absolutely gassed. And I don't know that I want to bring a cold Jarrell Kwanzaa in to have to try to play fullback against Anthony Gordon in the second half of a match if it is tight and it's close, or Harvey Barnes or one of these players running at him. Like, to me, you have to have faith in your squad, and I fear that you could re-aggravate Trent's hamstring injury by rushing him back out there 4 days later on the road with less recovery time and in a hostile place like St. James's Park. I think you give Trent the break. If you can, you don't use him at all, and then Trent goes back in. I think there's got to be real judicious use of those two fullbacks until Simicast and Bradley are back, because we really do lack cover there because the kids just aren't good enough.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a lot to think about here. It depends as well on how Newcastle is going to be setting up. Do you guys see them being positive at all, but potentially not having their star players? Obviously, playing at St. James's Park, that's always a bear pit. But sans Alexander Isak, I don't know who else do they have in terms of injuries, but they don't look like they're playing at full force right now. Do you feel like this is a game we're going to control, I guess is my question, where we'd have like 60% of the ball, they'd try and get us on the counter? Because I do see the argument for Curtis Jones there if we're probably going to have more of the ball, as I think he's been better with it throughout this season. What do you think, Gordo?
It's a tricky one because November was difficult for them, and they have been really hot and cold all season. But I mean, they took points off of Arsenal, but they lose to and just recently lost to a very lackluster West Ham team that's probably getting ready to cut ties with their manager as well. I don't think Lopetegui. I was actually surprised to wake up this morning after watching the game yesterday that he still has a job. That was very surprising.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Me too.
So they drop points there. They tie Palace, who just got their first away win yesterday, and that was at home. So, like, this has been a super hot and cold team. They beat Nottingham Forest, who beat us. So it's like, I don't know. It's a tough one. I think, like, I don't think you can. I don't think Eddie Howe comes in and doesn't go positive at home against Liverpool, because he's being shielded. He's one of the managers that's kind of probably on the bubble in terms of pressure, and he needs a little bit of a boost. I think he's being shielded by a couple of other teams, West Ham mainly, that's like in similar situations, but also looking a lot crappier. Steve Cooper was another one that kind of was shielding Eddie Howe from a lot of hatred from media because, you know, he wasn't doing well. Now Steve Cooper's gone. It looks like Lopetegui is probably leaving. So he's going to be in the hot seat. This is a statement win for him. So I don't think how he could come out here in a defensive shape. I think he's got to go for it.
Any final thoughts, Gally, before we wrap this up?
The only thing is, you know, I think what made us so dominant against both Real Madrid and Manchester City was the fact that our midfield ran them ragged, and it showed it showed the weakness in both of their setups, the fragility in their squads, and that they were aging, right? You had Modric and Gundogan literally walking around the pitch by the end of the match, like my grandpa used to, like looking for snacks on a Sunday afternoon at the home. But it was easy. They just passed it around them. A midfield of Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, and Joe Linton, let alone if they go with a fourth and they, mix in like one of the Longstaff brothers or something. That's not a midfield that you're going to run off the park at St. James's Park. Mm-hmm. So I think there's going to need to be that ability to play through the lines. And though I love the running that Szoboszlai does, and I do think you're going to need those legs at some point, I think Jones's ability to calm down, hold possession, keep possession, recycle the ball, move the ball forward, and break the lines. I think him and McAllister are going to be key today in what we do. And that's why I think Jones will start and play a big role. Other thing, just so you guys know, don't shoot the messenger, but it sounds like Chiesa is going to make the bench and has been ruled fit and practiced all week. So that is a good sign because the side needs some depth. And what it does need is it needs a different type of attacker to change things, because we've seen what we miss without Jota. So I say that, and we'll probably find out that he tweaked something during the warm-up and he's out until the new year. But supposedly Chiesa is back in contention and maybe on the bench. And that would be a good thing, seeing that we had two keepers on the bench at Anfield in the biggest match of the year.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah, hopefully, hopefully we won't need
and a babysitter.
Hopefully we won't need Chiesa to come in because we got the job done, right? But I know, Galdi, you're not going to be in preseason, so give me a prediction here.
I am going to go with the slot special clean sheet on the road, 2-0 victory. Good guys.
Yeah, I am 50-50 on the pre-match, so I'll say 2-0 as well. Gordo, you're going to be at the pre-match, right?
I will be.
All right, so we'll probably save your prediction by then. But
we'll let the listeners hold on with bated breath.
Right, exactly. So if there's nothing else, gentlemen, I appreciate you joining me this morning, filling in for Timuchin. It was a great conversation, by the way. Lasted longer than I thought we would have. Right, 55 minutes, right, which is great. So if there's nothing else for everyone watching, we will be back in a few hours for the pre-match show when the lineups are announced against Newcastle. Tune in then. And if there's nothing else, we will see you guys soon. Take care.